everyone, Acacia, the CEO legal coach here. And one thing that my friends are always asking me about is book recommendations. And I have been on a real overhaul the past couple of years, maybe going on to 3 years now, about financial abundance, financial wealth mindset, and what that means. And because the mindset element of it, the how we think about money, how we think about money impacts our emotions, which impacts our actions. So one thing would be like, I used to have horrible timing buying and selling stock, just horrible. My gut was not really aligned to good intuition about making good decisions. And that was because I had a lot of thoughts deep in my subconscious about the ideas of buying and selling stocks. So by getting in there and cleaning those out, my intuition becomes better. My awareness becomes better. And money really just starts to take off. I have used some of these things in these books. Like seriously, the very first one, guys, I got it. And I think within a month, I was able to manifest a 60% raise at work. 60%. It is difficult to get a 10% raise at work, right? And I got a 60% raise. And I got a $20,000 day and all of these things based on what I've learned from some of these books. So when I say these things work, I mean they work. And we're going to go ahead and talk about my 5 faves. Each is a little bit different because they each did different things and brought different value to me. And let's start with The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Okay. This book was the first one I got into. So I found this book because I had read Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass. I don't even remember how I read it or what, but I remember being in Mexico at the time, and she mentions this book. And I was like, well, that sounds kind of interesting. I guess I'll go look at that. This is the book that got me the 60% raise. This book right here, I'm not sure if I had even gone on to any of our others yet, if I hadn't finished them. So The Science of Getting Rich, it's an old-timey book, man. It's old-timey, but it is what you need to hear. It is the truth. It's going to take on those challenges you might have from your religion about, hey, we support the poor. We honor the poor. God has these ideas about the poor and where we are in that. But even if you're not religious, because this is not a religious book, this is a book of the science of getting rich. But he says some factual things that the first time you hear them, you are going to have a, excuse me, what did you just say? At it. But as you continue to read the book, you're going to start to realize there's something truthful here, and you'll understand it on an innate level. And this was the book that really started to shift that mindset of me just seeing the ideas of rich and poor differently. And in case you're wondering, no, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not on our list today. I did not find that book profound, where the science of getting rich is profound in the core message and how he says it. It's a little succinct. It's a little direct. It's a little ouchy at times. But that ouchy is exactly what you need to hear. And even Jen Sincero's mentions a little bit later, which I'll mention to you, in the later book she has, she even says that when she first heard his opening statement, Wallace D. Wattles' opening statement of this book, The Science of Getting Rich, she slammed it shut and was like, oh, hell no. But then when she picked this book up a year later, it changed her life. And so I'm with Jen on that. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, really, really big. And by the way, I will put all of these, the links for them in the description below. So don't worry, you'll have access to all of these. So that is book number 1 right there. Now let's go over to my second one, which is kind of along the same lines. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill, very successful entrepreneur. And there was an era in the United States history where we had all of those big booms of industry. We had the railroad coming up. We had the idea of trust and antitrust come up. We had mercantile exchanges. Things got really, really crazy. Carnegie, Edison, Ford, just a really big business boom of a time. And Napoleon was on the sidelines for all of it. And he's able to come and say, here is the mindset. Here are the stories. Here's how they thought and the actions they took because of those thoughts. And so there's some things in this book. Some people love it a little bit more than I did when it's a bit long. And it is old timey. Like there's some stories in here that, definitely come from a different era. But just like Wallace D. Waddles, there's actions, there's approaches here that if you take them, they're guaranteed to bring you there. They're guaranteed to keep you moving forward. And he highlights this. So Wallace E. Waddles, The Science of Getting Rich is about the principle, the mindset, the core conclusions you need to know and believe. Where Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich is, what does it start to take to put those into action? What does living that belief system look like? Here is what it looks like. And so it starts to become that transition point from idea, thought, conclusion into living and taking those actions. And so that is one of the reasons I love that book by him. All right, now we're going to go into the third one. You know what? This isn't the order I was going to go in, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. The Secret. The Secret has been around for quite some time, but it did not cross my plate until I was in Buenos Aires in late 2022, early 2023. Yeah, it took me that long to really take the moment to honor this book. And I will admit, I have found the movie annoying. And I wouldn't just read this book. This is a book I loved the audiobook, because the audiobook takes real life stories and it has different voices. It has sound effects. It has music behind it. And so you emotively connect to it. It's not just your brain, it's your body getting into it. And that is what The Secret is about. So if you've ever understood manifesting, you know it's not just the thoughts. It is how we feel. It is the vibrations we're on. The hierarchy of those vibrations, fear, doubt, uncertainty, are low vibe, where high vibe things are love, joy, capabilities, and all possibilities. And The Secret helps you move from one end to the other of that spectrum. And the audiobook really does this because of those added features like the sound effects, the voices, and so on. Rhonda Byrne, the author of this book, she also just has one of those great accents. I believe she's British. I'm not entirely, no, Australian. She's Australian. She mentions that in the book. But she has such a kind, caring, and yet energetic tone when she's reading her portions. And so it connected me and elevated my internal vibrations to not just take it from the mental awareness that I had with The Science of Getting Rich and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, but now connecting my emotions, connecting that internal vibrations to something that is going to help draw that success in. All right, so now we're going to take it to the next two. I don't even know which order I want to do this in. I'll do it in the order that they happened for me. You Are a Badass at Making Money. All right, I love Jen Sincero. I've been in her group coaching twice. I love her. And she's the author of You Are a Badass, right? That multinational bestseller book for who knows how long. Well, she wrote You Are a Badass at Making Money after it. And honestly, I like You Are a Badass at Making Money more than You Are a Badass. So if you liked her first book, you're going to friggin' love this one. Jen is great at combining two amazing elements, right? We've talked a little bit about the feelings and the vibrations and the frequency that we feel on. We've talked about the mindset. Jen is great at also bringing in the actions. Now, unlike a lot of the books that we've mentioned, each of those books is usually focused in one area. Jen is good at taking a little bit from each of them and bringing it together. So she brings in that coaching, that practical element of, hey, here's how to do things. Hey, here's how that is going to feel frequency-wise. And by the way, it's all because of your thoughts. So Jen is really, really great at that. She doesn't quite take it to the full level, which we'll get to in our final book on this list. But Jen is just phenomenal. And not to mention, you're going to laugh your ass off. Excuse my language. I probably have to bleep that out now, but you're going to laugh. There's particularly a story about a goat situation, a goat and a horse, and in a window. Sounds like a bad joke, but it really is just a hilarious story. And it happens to be the story that happened to her while she was writing You Are a Badass. So if you also have read her other books, you're just going to elevate it even more. But You Are a Badass at Making Money is this whole other level. And she starts to bring that together into life for you in ways that are also modern, right? Some of the books we talked about, Napoleon Hill and Wallace D. Wattles' books, they're over 100 years old. Completely relevant. That's how you really know it's great advice in those. Those are still 100% relevant today. But Jen makes everything a little bit more modern, easy to connect to, and just a great laugh along the way. Hers is another one. Oh, by the way, for You Are a Badass at Making Money, I love Jen Sincero's writing. When I read You Are a Badass, I read it. But I've also learned her audiobooks. She is the one who reads them. She reads her own audiobooks, and she has great delivery, great tonage change, great, knows how to deliver a punchline. So her stories are actually better when she reads them than when you read them. So another one of those, I would recommend the audio version for that, just because you get to a little bit of Jen. Get a bit of Jen love. All right. Last but definitely not least is Amanda Frances. Okay, if you do not know who Amanda Frances is, she's possibly the number one, if not the number one, money mentality coach ever. And she definitely is for women all over the world. I think she's in 88 countries. This book came across my plate because it was just recommended my Audible or Kindle, one of those. I started it and I was like, oh, why the hell not? And it was okay, because Amanda is a California girl, and that comes out in her tone and her reading. And that was just a tad annoying to me. Yet, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop listening. And so I continued on, and I have now been in 3 of Amanda's programs, 3 of them including her core money mentality makeover. That is her big long time thing. But to give you a bit of Amanda's background, she grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. And she went through a cult situation, not much money, enough to have what you need, all of these things. And then she went on to study psychology and became a coach, and then realized which her sort of sparkle place was this idea of getting rich using all these tools. And she has now helped thousands, probably tens of thousands of people in helping them elevate. So she's one of those that she brings it to life in the mentality, the emotions, and how to do it. And she herself is living proof of it. She went from, this little girl with a bunch of debt from school and, hoping to just make $3,000 a month. She's now a multimillionaire. She has $1 million months. So she's incredible. This, I believe, is her second book. But she's just one of those, she brings it to literal life right here, right now. So she kind of takes the Jen Sincero approach of the coaching, and then she takes it further. But sometimes jumping up too fast, we forget, we get lost. We can't jump from, a paycheck of $10 to $1 million if we don't understand how to get there. Right? Can it happen overnight? Totally can. But internally, we need to have the shifts enough to do that. And so Jen Sincero's You're a Badass at Making Money was that foundation for me. And then Amanda Frances just launched it into outer space. And it's just been absolutely incredible. So those are 2 of my favorite money coaches ever, as well as business coaches. I love them both very, very much. So there you have it. The top 5 books. Riches Fudge by Amanda Frances, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero, The Secret by Rhonda Burns, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The links for all of those are going to be below, so you can click on that and grab those right away and get your money mentality off the charts, my friends, because I can tell you, having owned multiple businesses over my lifetime, that when you have these shifts, when you have these approaches of worthiness, of capability, of understanding where your bucks came from. Why do you behave the way you do? Why do you have credit card debt or school debt? They were good decisions, or weren't they? Reframing that, because debt is not bad unless you make it and feel that way about it, and so on. So, looking at that and shifting how you view it will shift how you can view business, because then it's not just what that business is and making money, but what it is to making money for you. So, huge, huge thing in money growth is these books. And I hope you love them. Leave your notes in the comments about them because I really want to hear what you guys think and what you recommend as well. And of course, is there anything I left off this list that you think should be added?